Rob Tebbutt here with Shane McGuigan. We're down at McGuigan's gym. We're actually outside McGuigan's gym. Al fresco interview today. Joined for the first time in a little while by Shane McGuigan. Hi, Shane.
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's been a bit, hasn't it? It's been a while. You've lost some weight, looking well, refreshed new look. So yeah, mate, it's good to have you down.
Well, thanks very much. I wouldn't say refreshed new look, but yeah, I have lost a little bit of weight. I think the heat's doing me a few favours in that regard. I've been walking, I've been trying to get out, living a bit more of an active lifestyle. How have you been? Been the first time I've been down to the gym, or first time I've come to do an interview down at the gym for a little while?
Yeah, mate, it's been busy. Yeah, everything's like, I mean, you haven't been down here much anyway before, like when you were with your other job, were you? So like, we'd only just moved in here, and now we've been here for a while. It's like, it's great. It's a great location. Loads of new fighters coming through. Everyone's moving at super quick speeds. Dan's just picked up a WBA regular belt in Miami in a weird scenario, weird venue, weird like fight week with Don King. I felt like I'd been transported back in time. And yeah, like everyone's kicking on at Adam's boxing next week. So it's good. Let's
start there with this past weekend. Daniel Dubois picking up the WBA regular heavyweight title against Trevor Bryan. You've just alluded to the fact that it was an interesting fight week. Don King still living in the 80s. But yeah, what did you make of Dan's performance? Obviously a 4th round stoppage win over Trevor Bryan.
I thought he was patient. I thought he boxed well. He picks his shots well. He could have tried to steamroll him early. But he broke him down on the jab. He found some shots and caught him with a peach of a left hook. He's missing a little bit with the right hand. I said, just keep throwing that left hook, mate, because when you're missing with it, he's dipping, throw it, and then yeah, guy, what a shot! He was really badly dropped, really badly knocked out. But it was exactly what he needed. You know, he needed a big finish. That guy could have been fiddly. He could have gone, you know. It could have gone 10 rounds. It could have gone maybe even 12 if he hadn't have, changed the gears, changed the tempo up. So yeah, I was happy with it.
It's the 3rd fight with Dan now in a year. How do you feel that he's progressing under your guidance? I mean, remember coming down when you'd first signed him, one of the things that you'd said about quickening up the feet, athleticism. How do you feel he's improving under your guidance?
I think he's improving a lot defensively. You know, he's good at slipping the shots. He's good at using his feet to drop back. He's always had very good balance. He always has very good punching power. He needed to be sped up, and the thing about speed is it comes from the legs. So speeding his legs up will, inadvertently speed his hands up. So I think it's all coming together. But obviously Trevor was trying to wear him down later on in the fight. It obviously didn't get there, but still, he still sort of found the shots. But what I'm saying is, if he'd been throwing more, we would have had a chance to sort of really see the improvements, but maybe we'll get that on the next one.
Speaking of the next one, immediately after the fight, no sooner than Trevor Bryan picked himself up off the floor, you were calling for Dubois-Whyte for the next fight. 1 or 2 people surprised, raised a few eyebrows. Talk to me about that as a potential fight.
I mean, that's no disrespect to Dubois-Whyte. I just feel like he would fancy it because there's a version of a world title. It's a credible belt. He puts you in a very strong position to box for the super champion. If Usyk or AJ got stripped, Daniel Dubois is becoming he's becoming the full world champion. So I just think that's a fight that Dylan will probably like to get his teeth stuck into. He might feel like it's too early for Daniel, and I think like it's a great fight. It's someone that's only been beaten by world-class fighters like Povetkin, where he avenged that loss, AJ and Tyson Fury. So he's extremely credible. And I think it would be a great stepping stone, it'd be a great fight for us. And obviously Dylan might feel hard done by that I've called him out and stuff like that. But I just think with the landscape of boxing, it's a perfect fight for us. It's a huge name in the UK. Dan hasn't really boxed a big name. He's boxed Joe Joyce, but he's not a big star yet. He's a very hard fight for anybody, but he's not a massive star. And I think Dylan has a big profile. He's got a big following. He's had some great wins, and that's why I called that fight out, because I think like it is just a great fight. As a fan, it's 2 massive punches. two big guys, two brave guys as well that like to have a fight. It would just be a great fight.
You mentioned the belt there. You know where I'm going with this. There will be some people watching this interview that don't consider it a full world title, not a real world title in inverted commas. What's your thoughts on that?
There's been many world champions in the UK that have been WBA regular champions, and we've glorified them as world champions. I'm not going to name names, but there has been a lot. I don't understand why it would be different for Daniel. I understand, look, if he'd have beaten Joe Joyce, or if he'd have beaten Hrgovic, or if he'd have beaten Michael Hunter for the regular belt, people would probably be calling him world champion, you know. But the fact that he's boxed Trevor Bryan, who's a 22 fights, 22 unbeaten fights, and a relative unknown, no one really has a clue who he is. People are just saying it's a farce. Not really. The situation with the WBA, Emmanuel Charr and Trevor Bryan has been, it's been a farce. I mean, I remember when David Haye was boxing and we were trying to target the WBA regular belt as well back then, because it would have given him a foothold in the heavyweight division. But that's been a messy situation for a long time. But it's now going to be cleared up because Dan's willing to fight people. He's willing to genuinely fight big names. He's got a great TV network behind him, and I think he's in a very strong position to make that belt credible again. And yeah, I mean, think what you like of it. I think in the next 12 to 18 months, people, you know, are going to genuinely feel like he's worthy of a world title.
Just before we move on, you mentioned his name there, Joe Joyce, of course, the sole defeat on Daniel Dubois' ledger so far. I mean, I've spoken to yourself, I've spoken to Dan in the past. Yeah. Both of you have been very open about your desire for that rematch. If it's not a Dillian-Whyte, could you see that potentially happening? Obviously, both with BT as well, so I'm sure that would help.
Yeah, that's a huge fight. I think it's a fight that Dan would like to try and avenge, you know what I mean? The loss there. But, you know, Joe Joyce is a very hard fight for every single heavyweight on the planet. He's a massive lump. He's 6'6". He's got a great chin. He's got a high work rate, good punch output. He doesn't look spectacular. He doesn't excel in any one area. I mean, he doesn't really excel with speed or extreme power, but he's consistent with his work. So I think it would be great to get the Joyce fight. I feel like it would be great to have for the two of them to have a few more to really, you know, if Dan beats Dillian-Whyte and Joe Joyce beats somebody else that's a really credible opponent, like a Hrgovic or someone like that, then the two of them will really show their worth. And I think the two of them are going to have the capability of beating these top guys. And then I think it would become a bigger fight. But look, we'll see what Frank and BT want to do. But it's a fight that can happen in the next 6 months. It can happen in the next 2 years. But I'm sure they'll meet each other at some stage of their career, and yeah, when that does happen, I think, you know, Dan's got to be really conditioned. He's got to make sure that he's really up for it, and he knows what to expect now because he's done 10 rounds of him. So yeah, it's one that I think will have to get made at some stage, and when it does, we're gonna have to get the right game plan for him.
Moving away from Daniel Dubois, of course, we've come down today to see Hassan and Adam Azim and Caroline Dubois. Yeah. Unfortunately, July the 2nd now been suspended due to an illness for Hughie Fury, so that means that Hassan and Caroline will be pushed to a later date, I'm sure, by Sky and Boxer. Disappointing for them at the early stage of their career. Of course, they want to be active, want to be busy, but unfortunately, one of those things in boxing.
I mean, it is exactly that. It's just one of these things in boxing. It happens. It might happen at the start of your career over 4 rounds. It might happen in world title fights. It's just what happens. So dealing with that adversity early on in your career is only a good thing, really, in my eyes. They shouldn't be out of the gym. They should always be in the gym training. First 2 to 3 years of your professional career, you should be in the gym the whole time. You know, take a week out, maybe 2 weeks out, then you're straight back in. Because really, a top quality amateur turning over, they're not going to get tested until 2.5 years into their career. And you know, they might have little acid tests here and there, but in terms of a skill and you know, skill level and like talent level, they shouldn't be getting tested. The only reason they will get tested is if they're not training right. So keep them in the gym as much as you can. It's a development thing. I did it with Josh Taylor. I did it with Frampton. They were in the gym the whole time, and that's the most important thing, because you know, those years that you're as an early pro, you're really taking your time to mold yourself into a complete fighter. And you know, this minor setback, what will be push back 3-4 weeks, it's nothing really. And it just gives us more time to continue our work.
Spoke to Caroline earlier about the difference between her second fight and her professional debut. She spoke of, naturally a lot of fighters, or more often than not, fighters would be very, nervous and revved up for their professional debut. She said she felt a lot more relaxed. She was taking her time more in her second fight. How much more do you think she still has to go to develop, and what can we expect to see from her when she gets back in there?
I think she's only scratching the surface of what she's capable of. She's an extremely talented individual. She's got punching power. She's right-handed, so she generates a lot of power on her right side. But now we're working on her base, getting her settled a bit more, staying on the shots that little bit longer, not exiting every time someone throws a shot. She used to drop back, and then it was having to fight your way to get closer again. Whereas now she's might catch a shot here and there, dip, slip, and she's staying in the pocket. And inadvertently, that's allowing her to control the pace a lot better. And that's something that she struggled with, is like controlling the pace. Because in the amateurs, it's very much rush everything, get as much work as you can in 9 minutes of boxing. But now it's more settled, and I think when she really maximises that, she's going to be an immense force. I think she's going to be a face, like the face of female boxing moving forward. I really believe it. But there's much more to just boxing. There's how you deal with the media, how you deal with the press, the avid fans, the people that are shouting, the haters, all of these things. That was what makes a champion, and that's what can really ruin people. So she's a lot to overcome until she gets there. Talent-wise, boxing-wise, she's going to get there. We also need to work on how she deals with adversity when it comes to media as well as just boxing.
I spoke to her about, obviously she's just come back from Miami with Dan. I said, I heard somebody screaming at ringside. I didn't know who that was, and apparently it was her. But great experience for her to be out there and watch her big brother pick up a version of a world title. Yeah,
definitely. And they live with each other still. They're a close family, and they can't watch each other spar. Dan can't even watch Caroline spar. Caroline really struggles to watch Dan spar. Because they're so passionate, and she was definitely making some noise. I looked back and she was going, "Yeah, Dan." And I just said, "Caroline, just shout left hook." I said it to her and Francis Warren. I said, he's dipping it. I said, just shout left hook. And then literally 30 seconds, not even that, 20 seconds later, boom, left hook, flattens it. But, because the thing about Dan is you just got to call the right shots for him. It's like, you don't need to worry about set it up with a feint or twitch here, do this, do that, or cut the ring up. Just throw the shot then. Just throw a left hook, mate. You're going to land it. Because he's got natural athleticism to get himself there. So, close family, nice family, good people, and it's great to see it. It's great to see that passion and that camaraderie between the two. Sticking with the family vibe, of course, I've just mentioned Hassan Azim there, kind of coming up, behind Adam. I think it's fair to say that Adam is getting a significant push. He's going to be moved fast. Hassan, though, developing in, I don't want to say in the shadows or in the background, but working hard in the gym and kind of coming up behind. Definitely, he's the sneaky one. He's going to be the little secret weapon that we've got. He can punch. He's going to be a welterweight. He's a 6'1" maybe welterweight. And he's getting it. Adam come to me with a lot of head movement, a lot of balance, a lot of he could punch on, not necessarily on all ranges, but he could punch with he could generate power on most of his shots, whereas Hassan was all one-sided. But getting him to sort of use his attributes, use his length, start bringing the left hook into play, not giving away the center, finding ways to sort of control the pace, and that's what's really going to be going to make him a much more complete fighter. Because once he learns to dictate the pace, get on the jab and hold it in the center, for a guy that's tall and can whack, he's going to be a massive problem. The aeroplane to fly over above. Good choice. Oh, there it is. I think we're about right there. So we've spoken about Adam Azim, of course, mentioned him here, getting a significant push behind him with Sky and Boxer. Another very impressive performance last time out, 20 seconds of it against Conor Marsden. You've had a lot of brilliant prospects. You've had a lot of fighters that you've taken through the levels from a high level as an amateur.
How good is Adam Azim?
He's very, very, very good. You know, it would be disrespectful for me to say he's the best fighter I've ever worked with, but in terms of raw talent, he is there. He's phenomenal. He's got everything. But there's so much more to becoming a world champion. You have to have toughness. You have to be able to dig deep. You have to have a chin. You have to, you know, be able to, you know, to overcome and pace yourself and not deal with the nerves, not deal with being in like a potentially like an away corner, like Devin Haney's just gone and done. Like there's lots of things that you've got to overcome, but I believe, I'm solely convinced, I see it all the time. I've worked with every different fighter. I know he's going to become a world champion. I think he'll become a multi-weight world champion. And what's more, he's a nice kid. He's a nice lad. He's got that X factor. He's got that star potential. If he's pushed right with Sky, I really believe he's going to be the next superstar of boxing, because you could put him in with any of the top boys right now, and he's 19. Give us a few more years. He's not going to be just mixing it with them. He's going to be destroying them. As long as he keeps his head on his shoulders and doesn't let it blow up, then I think, you know, we're in for a treat.
He does have the big backing of Sky, boxer Ben Shalom. I've mentioned to you in the past, I mean, Josh Taylor being the kind of the prime example of you taking a talent. And, you know, you've always been somebody who's wanted to match fighters very well in your role as trainer, of course, in a managerial capacity. Getting that balance right, how important is that? And how quickly are you looking to move Adam through the levels?
Well, look, we did it with Carl, we did it with Josh Taylor. Like, we were on the road to doing it with Lee McGregor as well, and Chantel Cameron. So, you know, it's about giving them the right acid test at the right time. And the great thing is when you get someone as a novice pro that's had no fights, or and potentially a good amateur and stuff. Like Adam hadn't really done anything as a senior as well. So, you know, at least like Josh Taylor, for instance, had 170 amateur fights. He'd gone to the Olympics, he'd gone to the Commonwealth Games. He'd spent his whole time sparring pros as well. Whereas Adam was 19. He was only a baby. You know what I mean? So he'd done a few rounds of sparring with Campbell and stuff, but it allows me now, the fact that he's in a pro gym, it allows me to sort of just get him so seasoned to the professional game. He was out sparring in Miami. But I know how to match people at the right speed. My dad as well has got a great mind for boxing. The two of us, really close relationship. And the good thing about Adam is he won't question it. He'll do things, and you know, if you say to him, "You're boxing this person, sound. Let's watch some footage of him." Not a problem. He believes in himself, and you know that's the thing. A lot of the time you can try and push someone on, but if they don't really believe that they're there, that they're ready for it, then you know, you're pushing water uphill. But this kid, he believes he's ready and he wants to be there. He wants to get to the top as quick as possible. But we got to find the right fights moving forward. He needs the right acid tests. He needs to box for either a Commonwealth title or a domestic title. Then we need to push him on to an intercontinental, potentially a European. And then we'll be fighting former world champions, guys that are just past their best, but you know, they've been in there, mixed it with top level people, and you start, you know, effectively where Conor Benn is at his career, you start looking at the sheets and thinking, all right, well, he's done better than that world champion. He did it in a better fashion than that person. Then you say, look, you've had your development, now it's ready to go, and you pick the right champion. You know, you've got to align yourself in the right governing bodies to get the right belt, because you don't want to be fighting. You don't want to be fighting the Marius Bradis, for instance, of the cruiserweight division as your first crack at a world title. You want to be boxing the Macabus, the people that are slightly easier fights. They've got more chinks. So yeah, that's the right way to do it. And you know, I think we've done it many times before, and we'll continue to do it again. But this kid is different than other fighters that I've worked with, because he's so young, and he's going to get to that level when he's 22, 23. And he's a good-looking kid, and he's got a massive community that's going to get behind him. and he's got a huge platform behind him, which is just all of these things aligned, and not being bumptious, but he's got a great team behind him as well. So he's in the perfect position, the perfect hands to become a superstar, and I believe it won't take long till we get in there.
Final one on Adam. I'll ask you the same question as I asked him. He, of course, returns to the ring on the 25th of June in Coventry. What can we expect to see from Adam Azim when he returns to the ring?
I don't think this fight's going to go the distance. I don't think it will go many rounds. You know, this guy's got seven wins and 1 loss or something, but you know, there's levels to it, and I think Adam will flatten him. As to be expected, it's the manner that he does it. Hope he doesn't get caught with anything silly, and we'll roll on to a fight at the end of July, I think. You know, it's about keeping him busy. It's not, yeah, he's not at a headlining position quite yet. He's not far off it, but you know, we need a few acid tests to get us up to there, and I think, yeah, we might not get many rounds in this one, but we'll roll it straight on into the next one, and just jump on this train, because this kid's going places, and you know, he's got it all nice. He's a nice kid as well. People can relate to him. He's got an innocence and a naivety which is endearing, and he can fight like hell.
Okay, moving on to Lawrence Okolie. I've not seen Lawrence in a little while. Of course, the WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World. What's the latest with him?
Currently, we're looking at options and who he's going to box, and what date he's going to be boxing on. I'd like him to have a few more down at cruiserweight before he steps up to heavyweight. So it's very hard to get unification at the moment. Everyone's got their own, their own team behind them. They've got their own promotions behind them. They've got their own mandatories. They've got their own expectation of what they want to get paid. And Lawrence has got his expectation of his. So it's I don't think we'll get a unification fight next, but you know, if we get a chance to do it in the one after that, then that'd be fantastic. So. We'd like to get a couple more before the year's out, and maybe roll into 2023 as a heavyweight.
One of the names that's kind of emerged particularly recently is Richard Riakporhe. Of course, had another win at the past weekend against Fabio Turchi with a second round stoppage. Is that a potential fight that you would look at from the outside looking in? That could be a big fight in London.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Riakporhe got a version of a world title, and you know, Lawrence and him box for a unification, that'd be fantastic. You know, I think if Riakporhe did get a chance to box Ilenga Makabu, I think he'd beat him, and then that would, you know, align forces, and the two of them. Look, I don't think it would be a hard fight to get made. I think it would be a very easy fight. You'd have to figure out what platform it's going on. Obviously, Riakporhe's with Sky, but you know, it's one that I think could get done, and I think that would be the icing on the cake as a cruiserweight. Really, you got Bradis that's sitting there. He's got Jay Optea. He keeps calling everyone else out, but I'm not quite sure if he really wants to fight. Also, just for the general public, they'd be much more interested in a British world champion versus a British world champion, rather than, you know, Lawrence versus Marius Bradis. Do you know what I mean? So. Anguilla Mario once again, like he's got Igorov. Not sure how well that sells, and you know, it's really hard for promoters. I get it. We've promoted in the past. It's hard for people to really get like the right fights, and then also when they do get world champion against world champion, it's both fighters want paid really well, and if they're not well known, then it's not going to sell, and the TV networks aren't going to get behind it, and you're getting nowhere with that one. So unless someone, you know, it's a huge budget will put it up, or you even put it as a co-headline or something like that, then, you know, co-headline to an AJ fight or something like that, then that would make sense. But then again, if AJ was boxing someone like Usyk, he's not going to want to give away a massive pot of money towards these guys. So it's just hard to get stuff done. But hopefully we can get something. Now, that's what I'm saying. In an ideal scenario, Riakporhe wins a world title, and Lawrence, you know, keeps defending his, and they can get it on like sooner rather than later.
You, of course, had Chris Billam-Smith against Richard Riakporhe a few years ago now. What have you made of Richard Riakporhe's developments? Do you feel that he's an improved fighter since then under Angel Fernandez?
He's boxed weaker opposition than he was boxing back then, so it's hard to tell. You know, Turchi got beaten convincingly by Tommy McCarthy, and Riakporhe knocked out Tommy McCarthy in 4 rounds. So he's not going anywhere with this. He's getting himself in a good position with the governing bodies, but he's not actually going anywhere. He's not progressing. He hasn't boxed one person that's better than Chris Billam-Smith. You know, that was his hardest fight to date. Even Jack Massey was a great fight as well, really hard fight. He's boxing these international guys that aren't any good, or they're 45 years of age. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to tell of his progression. That fancy footwork and pad work and stuff looks great until someone sticks it on you and you can't find space, and then someone starts beating you up. Then it all unravels. So until that moment happens, he's going to look good. But I think when he does get put under pressure, when he does get the range shortened and forced to fight in close, it'll be the same Richard Riakporhe.
Similarly to Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, obviously since Chris Billam-Smith lost that split decision to Richard Riakporhe, he's always spoken about wanting to get that fight back. Do you think that that's realistic?
He doesn't, because I've got a great relationship with Ben Shalom and Sky, and they don't want it. It's a great. I want that fight for Chris, and Chris wants that fight more than anyone. So I've been told, in his eyes, he might see it as a backward step, but I know really what's happening. He's thinking that was a really hard fight over 10 rounds. Chris has developed like immensely since then. Riakporhe's improved a little bit on the outside, but he hasn't been in the acid tests. And I think, look, there's a big risk in that fight for Richard with a little reward. The only reward would be to win a European title, something that he hasn't won. So, yeah, I think in his eyes, he doesn't really, if he gets beaten, he's not headlined no more, and he doesn't get a chance to win a fight for a world title. And for his style, Makabu's a much easier fight than Chris Billam-Smith is. So I understand what they're doing. It's just it's not one that he's stressed, because he's not stressing it at all.
Where does that leave Chris Billam-Smith then? As you mentioned, they're European champion, Commonwealth champion at cruiserweight. He's well ranked with all of the governing bodies. I think he's top 5 with all of them. I think he's number 3 with the IBF. I think he's number 4 with the...
2, I think. Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Well, they didn't have a 1 and a 2, did they? And
so
Riakporhe's just gone to 2. Where does that leave Chris?
It leaves him in a strong position. He's still a European champion. He has been a British champion. He gave it up for, Mikel Lawal to box Juma, I think. But you know, it keeps him in a strong position. I would like an international opponent, someone like a Sergei Kovalev. He's just moved up. He's just beat Pulev's brother. I think it would be great for him to have a few names like Kovalev or Badu Jack, but I don't think Badu Jack is. He's saying he's a cruiserweight, but really I don't think he's wants to mix it with the top boys. But that would be great. CBS is a massive George Groves fan, so he'd probably love to avenge that loss for George. But yeah, if we could get someone like Sergei Kovalev, that'd be huge. And then we could try and get someone like a Masternek before we fight for a world title. He needs a few more before he fights for a world title. Hopefully we can get him those fights. Do you know what I mean? But once again, he's a hard night's work for anyone. And people that are champions or people that are contenders, waiting to fight for a world title, they're looking at Chris and thinking, he's got a high work rate, he's a decent puncher, he's got a good chin, he's physical. I'll swerve it, just take someone else. But in return, you have to beat people to get your spot. And the good thing is Chris is really well ranked in all of the governing bodies. So. I think he'll get his shot at a world title. We just need to pick the right fights, continue to build his profile, and then in time he's going to get his chance.
One of the big laws, of course, for Chris Billam-Smith, he's spoken about it for years and years and years, is bringing a big show down to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
How big of an appeal is that for Chris, and how much does he really want that?
He really, really wants that, and that's why I'm saying something like a Kovalev would be amazing, because if it's on DAZN, for instance, They have a massive budget. They have a chance. They like big arenas, but that would sell out 100%. That would sell out, and you know, it would be a fantastic event. And the big, I think there's like 5,000 seats. It would be jammed. You could put a very good undercard on. You could get a chance to develop his younger stable coming through that Eddie's got. So I see it as a no-brainer, but I understand where Eddie's saying it has to be, you know, they've got only a certain amount of dates. They have to have a proper headline act, and someone like Kovalev is genuinely a fight that could justify a headline. And you know, in my opinion, having 5,000 screaming fans in a packed out arena is better than having 4,000 fans in a 20,000 arena, and they're draping it all off, but it looks good on camera. I just don't quite get it, but hopefully we can get it done.
We've done the Azims, the Dubois, the cruiserweights. Let's move on to the Scousers, starting with Robbie Davis Jr. Of course, his last fight, a decision win, but a hard night's work, I think it's fair to say, against Molina. How is Robbie? What's the plan for him moving forward?
Yeah, Robbie's good. You know, he watched it back, I watched it back. Close fight. You know, it could have been a draw, could have been like Robbie by 1, it could have been Molina by 1. I think it was more Robbie by, like, looking at the night, I felt like it was a draw. I felt like, you know, it was a close fight, and there was what Robbie was doing. He was forcing the pace. He was, you know, conducting the pace of the fight, pushing him back, physically in control, and then he get caught just at the last 20 seconds with his stupid shot, and he looked more hurt than he actually was. He never got dropped. He was buzzed, and his legs went to the ropes once or twice, and it looked more dramatic than it actually was. But the next round, he's straight on it. So, and you know, he's a very close friend of mine. I don't like seeing him get hurt. I don't like seeing any of my fighters getting hurt. But you know, Robbie's there's a big sentimental value there for me, because I just think, you know, he's always had it tough. You know, his dad passed. We can relate on a lot of things, you know, and you know, obviously my sister passed, so the two of us, he's been more than just a fighter to me. He's actually he's a genuine friend, and you know, I don't like seeing him in there in a bad way, you know, in a hard fight, getting caught at the end of shots. But it's always gonna be a worry for us with a sharp shooter like Molina, someone that's, you know, not a massive puncher, but pushes shots together well. And if you noticed, if he was like a big single shot, you could read it. But the fact that he was sort of touching the right hand, feeding him onto the left hook, he was putting it power at the end of his, at the end of his shot, but on the third or fourth shot rather than the first one or the second shot. So he layered his shots really well, and it was a really hard fight. But once again, it was a great win because, you know, he dug deep and won the last 2 rounds, and he needed to win those last 2 rounds. In the 8th, I was considering, we're in a bad way here. You know, it was tight on the cards, but he was in a bad way. But I said, Robbie, you've got to stick on his chest, mate. You can't give him range. And he won the last 2 rounds, and that's what sealed the win.
Obviously 140, I think the belts are already starting to break up. Did he get a call for the interview for the WBA or whatever they were asking to do, a PowerPoint presentation?
No, he got a call for SAS, though. I think he might go on the old SAS program. So, yeah, no, he didn't get a chance to. Unfortunately, he wasn't ranked with the WBA, even though he had a version of their belt. So, bit disappointing. But you know, he'll continue to push towards, you know, aligning himself in the right position. I don't know what's going on with Josh Taylor and his situation. He's boxing Zepeda apparently for the WBC, isn't it? So that's an if and a maybe. He might have a bigger fight out there. If he does, then he might have to vacate, and that's the thing. Like, there'll be a few belts scattered about, and we just need to get our chance at fighting for one.
And the other Scouser in the gym, Mr. Fowler. Again, haven't seen Anthony for a while. I know he's out in Miami training, and with Dan. What's the plan for him moving forwards at middleweight? Yeah,
he's up at middleweight. He's he had a fight at the same time that Lawrence had a fight. I think it was like February 27th. I think it was. So just try and get a decent fight at middleweight. You know. He's had his development. We'd like him to potentially get a British title fight. Got Denzel Bentley. The only frustrating thing of that is he's on BT. We're not in a mandatory position, so if we did want that fight, we would have to go to that network. You know, if it was a purse bids, then obviously Eddie and DAZN could bid for it, and Matchroom, I should say, could bid for it. But if that's not the case, then yeah, Frank's not going to give you an opportunity to go and to take that belt and then take it back to another platform. So frustrating, but there's the Felix Cash fight out there. There's some great fights at middleweight for him, and you know, he's had his development, he's had his learning now. It's sink or swim now. You know, he's picked himself up off the floor against a Leyton-Smith fight. He's regained confidence with a win. Up at middleweight, he felt much better in the training camp. He felt much better in the fight. Wasn't the best performance. It was a bit. I think he's going from a headline act, you know what I mean, going from all the attention on you just to be just another fight against an awkward Polish guy that you can't really get motivated for. But that's boxing. You need to, you have to focus and concentrate, because those are the potential banana skins. But yeah, he got through that fight. He didn't look spectacular in it, and he knows that. But there's still a lot of great fights out there for him. So, you know, I'm talking to Eddie on a regular basis. You know, we've really got to potentially even target the European champion. Frustratingly, if Felix Cash was the European champion, we'd be jumping at that. But the fact that he doesn't have a belt right now, he's vacated the British and doesn't have a European. He's got a very good world ranking, but you know. If we did box Felix Cash, the only upside of that is just get a better world ranking, rather than actually getting you might get well paid for it, but boxing it's not about that. It's about, can't be short-sighted. You've got to think long term, and hopefully we can get a good fight secured for him and for something. You know what I mean, for a title.
I think I saw something about Anthony Fowler boxing Kamil Szeremeta, who of course boxed Gennady Golovkin and Jaime Munguia, ex-European middleweight champion. So see what happens there. Last but by no means least, Miss Scotney walked through the gym today on the back of her last outing. A very impressive performance. I think it's fair to say a career best performance from Ellie Scotney last time out. What's the plan for her moving forwards? Yeah,
look, I mean, we're going to look at an August date. Don't think there's any shows really in July that we can jump on. She's been enjoying life. You know, she's been enjoying a couple of weeks off. So first day back in the gym really, and yeah, we'll see what date we can get penciled in, and we can start targeting some world title fights. I think, you know, Eddie wants her to fight for a world title. In her contract, it is a world title fight next. Obviously, that's at the discretion of who we box. So hopefully, if we can secure someone, the thought process of going down to bantamweight to box Ebony Bridges, it's great and all. It's short-sighted in one sense as well, because it's, you know, she's not going to be there for long. Like, she's too big for the weight. It would only be a dipping your toe in the water for 2 seconds and then straight back up. So, you know, if we win a world title and Ebony Bridges wants to move up to 122, then that would be great. But, you know, I think Ellie's a little bit too big for 118. So, but there's loads of potential fighters out there for world titles as well. So hopefully we can start targeting the champions and see what date we can get with Eddie, and then we can get our teeth stuck into it and start cracking on.
Okay, right. Well, we are getting cooked a little bit here, so I'll make the last AOB quite short. Anthony Joshua versus Oleksandr Usyk. We're still waiting for the announcement. I was told it was yesterday. August the 20th. I was told it was going to be announced yesterday, the day before. Yeah. But we are still waiting. Of course, Anthony Joshua now has Robert Garcia as part of the camp alongside Angel Fernandez, no longer with Rob McCracken, of course. First question, I guess, is how do you see that working out for Anthony Joshua, having Robert Garcia in the camp? Somebody who I know that you know and have watched from afar over your time as a trainer.
Yeah, at least he won't get the name wrong. You know, Robert McCracken, Robert Garcia. He's stuck with a theme there.
It could be me next.
Yeah, you could have done it. I think that's a very good decision for him. I think it's a fantastic decision to bring an experienced trainer, a no bullshit trainer in Robert Garcia. He won't get you doing tech spar. He'll get you doing proper hard sparring. He'll periodise the camp properly. He'll get in the right sparring partners, and he won't mollycoddle him. You won't tell him what he wants to hear or tell him what he needs to hear. And that could be a defining moment for AJ to really get that hunger back. And, become a sponge again, because the problem with boxing when you get to that level is there's a load of money involved, there's a load of people telling you what you want to hear, and unfortunately you gravitate towards a stroke on the back rather than a stick on the legs. And for him to beat Oleksandr Usyk, he needs to have a conductor. He needs to have someone that he respects, and someone that can control the camp and genuinely just crack the whip. And he still might not beat him, but he's going to have a much better opportunity and put himself and get himself battle ready, rather than saying, I don't want to spar today, I want to do this, I want to do tech sparring, I want to work on this shot. You can't have that. You can't have that. That's when the relationship's terminated, from my experience, and it's no good for the fighter. But really, on hindsight, they always reflect and understand that. But you've got to have some harsh lessons before you do so. But he's corrected his decision, he's corrected his camp, and we'll see if it's August the 20th. Hopefully, it's got enough time for Robert Garcia to really implement a good game plan and get him in. He doesn't need to be taught how to fight. He doesn't need to be taught how to box. He just needs to be prepared properly. The right sparring. He can throw a punch. He can throw a left uppercut. He can throw a left hook. He can throw a right one. He can throw all the shots. The only way you get a lot better is being in endangered situations all the time. Put yourself in with hard sparring partners, guys that want to take your head off. Give them a bounty. All right, there you go. You get $1,000 if you get $5,000. Get $10,000 if you drop me. Do you know what I mean? That's what's going to incentivize him. You shouldn't be saying, "Oh, we want to do tech sparring today." I'd be saying to every single one of them sparring partners, "I will give you £10,000 if you drop him," because $10,000 for him and the money that he generates is absolutely nothing. But that's much better. He doesn't even need a coach. He just needs the right sparring. And then he does need a coach, because he needs someone to then control it, but then also someone to say, "You're doing this wrong," Don't, because he's an attacking fighter. He's a really, once he puts his shots together, nobody can put their shots together with that speed and that intensity as a heavyweight. He's super athletic, and that's his excelling point, So by standing back trying to jab someone's head off, when you're, he's learned a lot of the fundamentals of boxing, but he can fight. So get him a coach that forces him to fight. There's always going to be a chink to say, is he going to get nailed with a shot here? Is the Andy Ruiz situation going to happen again? Is the Billam-Smith thing? Is the Klitschko thing going to happen again? But you'd be better off waking up on Sunday morning thinking, do you know what? I got rocked there, and I got discombobulated, and the referee stopped it. Giving it 100%, right? Then standing back trying to jab somebody that's too quick for you, too skillful for you. You've got to, there's ways that you can attack as well, not having to just walk in and take shots. You can still drop back, but you have to force the pace, is to fire into the body, and that's something that I'm sure Robert Garcia will be working on.
Okay, well, with all that being said, and the final question before we do get sunstroke, how does the fight go? Weighing all of those things into account that you've just mentioned there, with Robert Garcia, with sparring, let's assume those things go as you've just described them. How does the fight end Joshua Usyk 2, or rather Usyk-Joshua 2 on August the 20th?
I think, I'm not sure if it will go the distance, and I'm not sure who's going to win. I think being aggressive could be really beneficial for AJ, but he also could walk onto something. But it's the only chance he's got of winning. He has to be aggressive, and hopefully he catches, in his eyes, hopefully he catches him first. Because Usyk has got enough power to knock heavyweights out, especially with the momentum of them coming onto him. He can generate power on the back foot, he can walk you onto shots. And it's the speed of his shot. You know what I mean? He had him hurt in the last round as well. That will give Usyk a lot more confidence that he's able to nail him and have the power to hurt him. But also he might try looking for it. I think the fight is down to how Usyk prepares himself. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in his homeland. There's a lot of stuff, I'm sure, going on with his personal life as well, dealing with all of his family being there. So it's got to be distracting. And if he has a bad camp, could be the perfect opportunity for AJ to get him at the right time. So we'll see.
We certainly will. Shane McGuigan, always a pleasure. I'm sure the next time we catch up won't be as...
Always a pleasure speaking to you, mate. It's great to have you back.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come down here, and even more so when I'm working and we can do this. So I'm sure the next one won't be as long of a wait.
Yeah.
But thanks very much, as always, for having us down. And I will catch up with you soon, I'm sure.
Cheers, mate.